Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harek Sean Calfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harek Sean Calfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, the books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here.
Copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. ETM Hotel, Rennie, Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into Science with Sean. I appreciate everybody that tuned in earlier this morning with the first show. Back again for the second show, the real show that I was supposed to do today, not actually dealing with the nonsense. Before I really get into the bill, I know a lot of people want to know, no, I just stopped sending them at a certain time. So you got to be notified. You know what I mean? I can't keep sending links. But before I was rudely interrupted, now I'm just playing. Garfield ended his show with Asar and Kyle making the assertion that an experimental boat made it to Barbados a second time, and that is supposed to justify maritime travels for the ancient Egyptians. Well, there's no writings in Ronnie Kemet. I mean, not Ronnie Kemet, in the Sesh. And the Egyptians never spoke of maritime travel outside of the Nile, or if they were doing business somewhere else. We don't see them doing that. And he brought up the second boat, Khufu like it meant something. It didn't mean anything either. The Remech didn't write about traveling to the New World. They didn't even know of a New World. They had no reason for that. Why would they leave the Nile where they're booming? They got all the resources. They got hella trade going on. They getting money. They got gold in the South. They got all these things going around. They finna leave these pyramids and statues they building to go find some other stuff. For what reason? There wasn't a resource that they actually needed. And they didn't write about it. So to bring or to infuse muddy the conversation up with the Remech and then say that, they had the ability to travel to the New World. So what? What does that prove? Did they travel? And he didn't want to answer that. He kept talking about being scientific. Like, bro, listen, the Botorah failed, right? You bring me the Botorah 2. The Botorah 2, you really just muddying the waters with the Botorah 2 because you changing the climate. We're talking 1970s. We're talking about a less violent ocean than thousands of years ago. But that still doesn't answer or give merit to Black people being in the Americas, which was asked. The initial question that Garfield asked was Black people here before Columbus, as the book says? And he couldn't answer that. Instead, he opted out to argue from ignorance. And that is what happened every time someone jumps off the cliff and try to make these claims. So before we start the show, I just wanted to talk about that real quick because it made absolutely no freaking sense whatsoever that we would get caught up in a conversation. I was more ready to have a conversation about the sources that Van Sertima used versus this whole conversation with Assad that he was having in the chat with everybody that he himself, he used Lucia. He did all of this. Man, listen, he don't understand the skin map. He don't really use science. He just kept trying to make an argument for Black. But I kept saying, that don't make you African. Seneb kept saying, that don't make you African. So that's the problem that we face with people who tend to always lead us down a rabbit hole and forces us to have to deal with their ignorance. But anyway, man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We're going to get into, I don't know why he ain't vaxxed. He said in the chat that he was infected with COVID early in the year and he wasn't vaccinated yet. He was saying that to say that it wasn't time for him to get vaccinated. Then he came up with some whole other argument that he said the Sutek is that they ain't got the vaccine right yet. As if 170 million people fully vaccinated doesn't prove the point of people them not getting it right. It's mRNA technology. They can get it right instantly. He doesn't understand viruses, variants, or vaccines. It's clear. I mean, stick to like the boxing. He's really good at boxing. The brother's a good boxer. The brother's good at translating the text. And the brother's good at Egyptian history and culture. And he knows a little Arabic. So I'm leaving it there. Some people just got to stay right there. When you get into the conversation, and it's crazy. But nah, if other people want to deal with that, you know what I mean, Sutek, you can deal with that. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be on the panel with him. He ain't gonna do nothing but frustrate me. Cause I can't take the ignorance. My attention span too short for men with that level of ignorance. And then wants to throw the word science out there often. However, I was trying to see if Brother Chill was gonna have time to get in. I sent him an email. I didn't really want to start without him, but come on, y'all, like the show, share the show. Before we get started, let me hit them up again. Free, I emailed. All right, so anyway, let me do this. Let's go ahead and get this on out of the way so we can start the show.
Yo, talk to me, Cleveland. Have you not had your shot yet? Really? Are you serious? I know you're worried. You're thinking it's gonna be like another Tuskegee? I get it. They've been doing black people dirty for years. So why wouldn't we be concerned this time? Here's the situation, people. At Tuskegee, they did not give us the disease, but what they didn't do was give us the cure. But by not taking this vaccine, we're Tuskegeeing ourselves. The truth is, if we don't protect ourselves, nobody will. We're at over 150 million people vaccinated. And if your doctor and your mother haven't turned into zombies by now, then you won't either.
That's a fact. So if Chill is able to hop in, man, you know, I'm gonna let him in just a second. Let me fix the screen so the actual show can boom. Oh, Garfield probably deleted that. All right. So let's get into it. Now, the video is 19 minutes long. It's a conversation between two black men. The conversation was much longer than what we're going to see, and there was some editing done. Chill was dealing specifically with some things the brother had mentioned in a conversation that was held previously by an interviewer that he had an opportunity to see, and vice versa. So we're going to deal with the exchange, and then we're going to have a conversation. So everybody that's tuned into the chat, if you are able to communicate and go back and forth and have some type of dialogue, or if you want to put some input in this is going to turn into a QA. However, we're going to try to make this as informative as possible and digestible for our people. So with this, without further ado, here's what we call the interview.
I'm Kevin Chill Hurd, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Everybody knows I represent the Lee Harvard area, stand up Lee Harvard. I'm a father of two children, and I believe and am empowered through my information and research to make the best choice that I can possibly make for myself and my kids to get vaccinated, to protect ourselves from this virus.
My name is Clarence Johnson. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, the Mount Pleasant area. I'm pro-choice when it comes to the vaccination, but me personally, I do not plan on taking it, just based on my personal belief system. I believe to each his own, and you have to make the decision that is best for yourself. I'm a father of 11.
Do I feel that things are serious? Yeah, I think they are serious. I think they've been serious. It's a pandemic. It's worldwide. I feel the effects of it. I have friends that I've lost to this virus, and it's changed the way that we live and the things that we need to know how to survive, how to be social, how to love each other. It's changed the way that we live.
To be honest, it's hard to say something that's serious with a 98 survival rate. It seems like it's more propaganda than anything, because there's so many different stories that you hear from people who are affected by those who die, but then there's so many who are just getting sick and aren't actually dying. Just looking at it comparatively, there's more people who die from the flu in a year than have died from COVID-19 in the last year. So I can't take it seriously.
I'd really like the data that I've seen is a little different, especially flu deaths compared to COVID deaths. We're probably at like 500,000 COVID deaths. I was kind of up on it from the very beginning. When I found out, I mean, it's a pandemic, so everybody heard about it worldwide. I went to people that I trust, my doctors. I reached out to the immunologists. I need to reach out to people studying viruses, biology, anybody that I can try to. I'm looking to find what's in the vaccine because now I gotta make a decision for my family. And so I went above and beyond to find out, about this virus, at least what I could, and about the vaccine.
The primary basis for me making that decision is history. Throughout American history, the people who are seen as a minority in the country are often experimented on, or when something quote unquote new, because coronavirus is actually not new. When something new happens, they experiment on that group of people to figure out how to go around it.
All right, so he said the coronavirus is not new. Chill didn't catch him on that, but you see his face when he heard it. Look at Chill's face. They don't show his face when he's saying the craziness, but he said the craziness right here. Chill looked at his brother as it is not new. It's a novel virus. SARS-CoV is SARS-CoV-2 is a novel virus. It is new. It has not been introduced to this world before. It's a new virus. That's why the year date's 2019. Coronavirus. I'm reading the chat. The reproductive number, the number of secondary infections generated from one infected individual is understood to be between 2 to 2.5 for COVID-19 virus, higher than influenza. You got to go with the Delta variant. The the R naught has increased in the Delta variant, making it more transmissible. The infection rate higher. Okay, so let me go back. Let's start over and let's deal with this brother when he introduces himself.
Things that we need to know: how to survive, how to be social, how to love each other. It's changed the way that we live.
To be honest, it's hard to say something that's serious with the 98 survival rate.
Now, at the 131 mark, he says, to be honest, it is hard to say something is serious or take something serious that has a 90-something% survival rate. Okay? Now, if you've watched Science with Sean on the Mossy Warrior Clan, we talk about the survival rate because people were using this as an argument to deal with the mortality rate of the 1 and 2%. So we have a source, right? Yeah, he did say he believed, but we have a source from Reuters, okay? Reuters. It says misleading comparison between COVID-19 mortality rate and vaccine efficacy. That's one source, okay? It says social media users have questioned why COVID-19 vaccine found to be 90% infectious been held as a breakthrough when the disease itself has a survival rate of 99%. Comparison lacks context. All right, it says, here's the post. It says, how are people okay with 90% success rate for a Pfizer vaccine, but yet they're not okay with the 99% survival rate for the virus? Make it make sense, please. Now, it should firstly be noted that vaccine efficacy and survival rates are two separate measures and so are not directly comparable. That takes it out the game immediately. The vaccine efficacy is the probability the vaccine will prevent someone from catching COVID-19, while the survival rate is the likelihood that someone who has already contracted the disease will survive. Survival rate, while the exact mortality rate of COVID-19 is still not known, a hypothetical rate of 1% would still result in a massive number of deaths if it's to spread unchecked. Now, even with restrictions such as lockdowns, there would have been so far more than 1.3 million COVID deaths recorded worldwide, according to Johns Hopkins. Alongside this, the Post does not consider the impact of COVID-19 extends beyond its death toll. Vaccine effectiveness. Even though no vaccine is 100% effective, this does not make it an ineffective tool for controlling disease and preventing. Flu vaccines, for instance, are between 40 to 60% effective, but help save lives. I'm going to say that again. Flu vaccines, for instance, are 40 to 60% effective, but help save lives. Now, if there had a hypothetical been a 90% effective vaccine available at the start of the year, then this would hypothetically reduce expected cases around 150,000 per head. One of the researchers stated. Now, the verdict on this is that the argument is missing context. So when someone says the survival rate is 99%, context is missing. You're comparing survival rate to infectious, right? Mortality. You're comparing mortality versus mortality is not up against another mortality. Mortality is up against a survivability. They're two separate arguments, and the argument lacks context. Therefore, we can't come to an honest conclusion. Now, I've given this source before, so I am going to put this in the chat. But a 1% mortality rate, on the other hand, would still lead to massive deaths. And that's just, it is what it is at that point. Now, there's more to that, but I want you to hear him in his own words.
To be honest, it's hard to say something is with a 98 survival rate. It seems like it's more propaganda than anything, because there's so many different stories that you hear from people who are affected by those who die, but then there's so many who are just getting sick and aren't actually dying.
So listen to the logic. There's so much more to the people who had people die, whatever he just said. But he said it's a different story for those who just get sick and then don't die. The object is to not get sick, to prevent the spread of disease. Disease leads to death, hospitalization, and death. So the people that have gotten sick and had to get over their sickness, we don't know the long-term implications of those people because they haven't been treated by a doctor, and that information is unknown to us if they have developed new diseases within their body. We don't know.
Just looking at it comparatively, there's more people who die from the flu in a year than have died from COVID-19 in the last year.
Now, he says, looking at the comparison, there's more people that have died from the flu that have died from COVID last year. So COVID deaths versus flu deaths, right? These are two separate viruses that have separate implications, and I'm gonna just cut straight to the chase. I don't even want to deal with this craziness, but there was more deaths, right? There was more deaths in COVID-19 than it was in the flu. The flu deaths last year was 61,000. The COVID-19 deaths was over 400,000 coming into the new year before it got to 500,000, and now we're at 600,000. I'm going to say that again. We had 61,000 flu deaths last year. And the reason we had 61,000 flu deaths is because people social distanced, they had lockdowns, people wore masks. So when the flu season struck, people were wearing masks, which reduced transmissibility. Plus, you had social distancing, so you had less contact with people who could pass on the flu to other people. So the flu was down. And COVID deaths was kicking ass. So for him to make that comparison was illegitimately ignorant. Oh, you ain't watched the video. That's why you saying that play.
Who are affected by those who die, but then there's so many who are just getting sick and aren't actually dying. Just looking at it comparatively, there's more people who die from the flu in a year than have died from COVID-19 in the last year. So I can't take it seriously.
I'd really like the data that I've seen is a little different, especially flu deaths compared to COVID deaths. We're probably at like 500,000 COVID deaths. I was kind of up on it from the very beginning. When I found out, I mean, it's a pandemic, so everybody heard about it worldwide. I went to people that I trust, my doctors. I reached out to the immunologists. I need to reach out to people studying viruses, biology, anybody that I can try to. I'm looking to find what's in the vaccine because now I gotta make a decision for my family. And so I went above and beyond to find out, about this virus, at least what I could, and about the vaccine.
The primary basis for me making that decision is history. Throughout American history, the people who are seen as a minority in the country are often experimented on, or when something quote unquote new, because coronavirus is actually not new. When something new happens, they experiment on that group of people to figure out how to go around it. One thing that comes to mind would be the incident in Tuskegee. That within itself is something that bothers me because that's not really that long ago in actuality. And if the same government was able to do something like that, how could they not do it now at a wider scale? Tuskegee was, if I have the right event, that had something to do with syphilis. And it was people who were brought to a clinic who were told that whether it was an experimental drug or it was something they would take that would help them, when in actuality they knew what they were injecting it with.
Okay, this is this.
All right, so from what I gathered from Chill at this particular juncture or part of the conversation, Chill had asked the brother a question in regard of what was his take on Tuskegee, because he had heard in the video him bringing up Tuskegee, and he wanted to try to make some headway here. But that part was edited out initially, and this is the rest of the conversation.
This is an important step in what's happening now, in my opinion, and that's our historical relationship with things that the government has done, is specifically in the medical service. I think that we get the wrong message from what happened in Tuskegee, and I think it affects our decision making. First of all, the study itself is called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in Negro Males. So right there, the name of the study tells you that what happened is they didn't treat us. They had a cure at the time, which was penicillin, and they withheld it. What those brothers needed in Tuskegee was a shot. They did not give us a shot. But we have a collective false memory as Black people to think they injected us with syphilis. But what they did do was horrible. It was tragic. to let somebody have a disease, not tell them that they have it, and then not only not treat them when a treatment is available, but to watch them spread it, get sicker and sicker, and die. And this went on from 1932 to 1972. And I'm famous now for saying we're Tuskegee'ing ourselves, because instead of the government withholding that treatment from us, we're now withholding the treatment from ourselves. Okay, he also brought up measles, mumps, rubella, MMR.
No, that's something that's a vaccination that you're required to take before a certain age. I have small children, so there's certain things that they have to take in order to attend school, and that's one of those things they have to take before they even enter the first grade.
That's not just your kids; that's everybody. That's us as well. Mm-hmm. But that's an instance where that was a successful vaccine. I mean, you might have alluded to when you were talking about that. I got to understand that you thought that there were not successful vaccines.
No, it's not that they weren't successful. This is the process that they had to go through to actually be able to create these vaccines. The time that it took, the research that it took to create the vaccines for something they were already studying previously. Right. So now we have something that they have the history on. Let's say that it's actually the 19th.
But you know that they came up with that vaccine like in the 50s? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is 2021. You can't expect the science to stay at the same level that it was. What I want to say is this vaccine that we're working on now is better than those vaccines back then. I don't know if you remember, the anti-vaxxers have had a problem with the MMR vaccines because they said they had part of the virus in them, or they had mercury in them. These current vaccines, they have no form, dead, weakened, no form of the virus in it. This is a whole new science. This is a science that's going to change the game for the better of us, not to the detriment of us. The question is, the way that we know it, it plays itself out. The same thing with all the other vaccines that we've had. The people could have said that about the MMR vaccine. Measles was worldwide. Polio was crippling children all over this country. We've almost eradicated that with our scientific progress. We stand on the shoulders of our successes. You know, it's been so long ago that we cured measles and mumps and polio. We forget how much beneficial vaccines are. We can afford to say we don't want to take vaccines because we have benefited from vaccines. So the process of creating vaccines, the science of it has progressed. When you talked about the test, the trials, they went through all three of the clinical trials, all three levels for this vaccine. They didn't shortcut it. The success of it, we got to like 95 efficacy rate on the first two that came out, the Moderna and the Pfizer. This is not the first coronavirus. And that's part of the answer why it didn't take them as long. They were already familiar with the coronavirus, SARS, MERS. Those are various viruses, coronavirus because of the crown on the virus. But this specific one, which they named COVID-19, is a different variant of coronavirus. But you're right, because they already were familiar.
I wouldn't say variant of a coronavirus. I know what he was trying to say. So SARS-CoV-2 is a different variation of SARS-CoV-1. They're two separate viruses. And it is a coronavirus because of the crown and the way that it actually functions. You know, it causes respiratory issues, but they didn't know that it would cause heart, lung, kidney, intestinal, brain, toes, fingers, tongue, hearing loss, gangrene. In some instances, COVID showed up in sperm. They didn't know that it would cause all of the other implications as other SARS viruses have caused. this has been a very violent virus.
Familiar with coronaviruses, and they had already been working in general on vaccines for different viruses. When this specific one came around, it's scientists all over the world, black ones, white ones, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Swiss, waiting for the code. All we need is the molecular code for this virus, and we're ready to start working on a vaccine right now.
So everybody should know that he's referring to the genomic sequencing, so that they can go in and sequence the virus to replicate the genome to come up with a successful virus. They've eliminated a lot of steps in being able to make the vaccine much faster, which is beneficial to us. But let's see what this brother's response is to this, because they did a lot of editing and there's a lot of stuff cutting out.
So one, they already were working on the process, especially the mRNA. They were already working on that technology. Two, coronaviruses in general weren't foreign to them. And three, man, we got some of the coldest scientists worldwide working on vaccines. We know more about this vaccine than we've ever known about any vaccine.
The government is supposed to help us be protected from COVID-19. Why would they not educate us on the right mask to wear? That's.
So the brother's question is, the government is supposed to protect us from COVID-19. Why would they not educate us on the proper mask to wear? First of all, they did educate people on the proper mask to wear, or how to wear the mask. They did studies on that. Now, at first they told people to mask, and then they saw the variations of masks that people were getting. The more popular mask, which is the N95 mask, began to fly off the shelf. So they began to come up with different methods or different studies to help educate people on how to make masks. And those people who make masks, they told them how to properly take care of those masks, because if you're wearing a cloth mask, you don't want to continue to wear that cloth mask. You want to wash it, and you want to have other implications of that. But we went through that science because this was a novel virus. These are the responses that you're going to get in the middle of a global pandemic, and you're trying to save lives. They are testing things and trying to figure things out in the fight, not out of the fight where they had time to develop a sound position to defend itself. They're in the fight, and they're looking for resolutions in the fight. Like, they're looking for some glimmer of hope. However, they stated once they found out through several trials that, those hospital masks were beneficial because it was slow transmission, but it says that they're not really 100% effective because there's gaps in those masks. And if you cough, talking or anything like that, then the sides of the mask would allow those small or large particles to leave out. And when those small or large particles leave out, it gives them the ability to know that the virus is now airborne if someone was infected, and it could potentially infect others around them. So his question about why didn't they, properly educate us on which mask to wear? First of all, there became a mask shortage real quick as soon as they told people to wear masks. The N95s flew off the shelf. Them was the first ones to go because everyone knew the effectiveness of the N95 mask. It was the proper mask, the safest mask to get.
To me, that's a valid question. If
It is.
COVID-19 is something that nobody really knows about, supposedly, and it's something that's being researched on, and you're supposed to give us the information. Once you go through the research, how's the information you've given us not even valid from week?
So now he's saying that the information that we were getting was invalid, and it was going from week over week. This is a confusing part for me, because science is self-correcting and updating. So if they got something wrong last week, they're going to correct it this week because of new data, not based on assumption. And I don't think the brother knows how science works, but I'm gonna let him build.
Week to week, like So these are the same people that are giving you this information that you're depending on to kind of make your point of view, as well as what you're seeing and the depth you're seeing. So if half of what you're getting is not reliable, and the other half you're getting is just by visual experience, how do you even decide which one to trust?
Okay, first of all,
So which one do you trust? What you visually see or what you halfway hearing? That's weird, because if you knew how to disseminate or discern what you're hearing, then you would know what you're seeing has to add up to what you're hearing, and they go hand in hand. It would help you substantiate your position on the information based on the data, but the brother isn't reading anything, and Chill still hasn't responded yet. But let me let the brother go.
again, I'm not listening to the politicians. I'm not listening to the government. I'm listening to the doctors, to the biologists, to the immunologists, to the virologists. I'm listening to the experts that have to study this, not the politicians. They're gonna tell you anything. I think history tells us that we don't always have to go by that. But one thing I want to tell you, you say when things change, they tell you one thing this week and another thing next week. That's how science works. That given more information, the information can change. It's called the novel virus because it's new. You're never going to get 100% of the information off the rip from something brand new. So again, that's how science works. That's why they follow the data. That's why they continue to study. If they find out that this works better later on, I feel better that they can, if they find out something is incorrect, I feel better that the process is self-corrective. Yeah, that they can tell you, you know what, we got that wrong. For them to tell me that they got it wrong, than to keep it.
Experts aren't experts because it is something that's new. They've had no previous time to study, so all the information they're learning is not expert opinion. It's just a good guess.
It's not an opinion. It's what the data says. It's not. Science isn't opinion driven. Medicine isn't opinion driven. You find out more information as it goes by, and you adjust with the best information that you can get.
The coronavirus has a 97% survival rate. So by it being a 97%,
he went from 98 to now 97. So he went down a couple of percentages on the survival rate. Again, so he's going to argue survival rate versus mortality instead of never mind. Let me be quiet.
percent survival rate. Most people that are being affected are those who are in old age or have a predisposed to some other disease.
Now, people that are being affected are those who have pre-existing conditions and older. Those are the two claims. Remember those two things: pre-existing conditions and older.
Disease or some kind of illness are the people who've been dying from it. And just sticking to coronavirus, what is so serious about something that 97% of the Americans survive from, that all the attention from the scientific community is only on this subject and no other viral compound has been around now? Everything is just focused on COVID-19.
First of all, my answer to that is, when you say a 90, and we can check on that, but when we say 97 rate, you're talking about mortality. You're talking about that other 3% die. Okay, if that's your metric on science, then that's a different discussion, because people who have contracted COVID, they have respiratory problems. They have what they call COVID brain. They have loss of taste and smell. They have nervous conditions. I mean, in their nervous system. There's so many other things that can happen to you because of this. But 3% that live is not like 500,000 people dead. And it's not over. I have different variants.
All right, the racial climate, year or so, the tension of it is almost equivalent to the late 70s or 80s. And all that has to do with social media, because before it's something that you could not see. So now it's something that's seen, it's broadcasted, it's noticeable. That is what made me kind of eerie about the government's intention with the corona next out. They were described to be susceptible, and none of those were African Americans. After a year, and after the vaccines come out, they now say that African Americans are the most susceptible to the disease. And I just found it kind of weird that after a year, after the vaccines, after so much explanation, after so much misinformation, now you're telling me that it's the African Americans who really need to take it. Like, as soon as the vaccine came out, your African Americans got to take it because, you know, it's affecting y'all the most. But I've not seen that in any representation in any level of media. So, like, with the racial comment being what it is, how Corona has just kind of overshadowed everything that's been going on in this situation, it gives you a chance to ignore the impropriety that's going on in the news, and a lot of those racial situations is that's what makes me kind of leery about it. It's just the tension that's been going on in the background before they even came with the vaccine. And once you create these vaccines from different companies, you then change who you say is susceptible to this disease. Like, it just made me leery about it, and it's just because of that. Like, so it's not that vaccines are a new thing, that this vaccination is a new process. It does bother me that they came up with it so fast, but that's the other thing in the back of my mind.
Another thing that helps me, because a lot of times when we use the word they, that in the African American community, we have become they. We are now scientists. We are now immunologists. We're now virologists. We are the doctors. Dr. Tuskegee'n Corbett, sister from North Carolina, led the scientific team on the mRNA vaccine that became Moderna. You know, all up and down the process, Black people have been involved now. And that may not have been something that happened in prior times. My personal primary care doctors are Black people. My current doctor, the doctor I had before that. And I do trust my doctors.
For the last couple of months, they've been trying to influence.
Who?
It's not just the government, it's also mainstream media. That's been the message they've been putting out for the last couple of months by continuing to say that Black people are now the most affected by the virus, when for 6 months previous to that, those weren't the people who were most susceptible to the disease. Like, by them giving me one set of information, then all of a sudden they come out, they're like, nah, we need the Black people to take it. So, Black people are most affected by it now. It's just the way they're bringing information to me and how they're presenting.
This is what I don't want to happen. I don't want racism to cause us to make a detrimental decision on our health.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want us to base that white people or government have been doing us dirty to make us make wrong decisions. I'm agreeing with all of that. But is that how we make our decision on our health? If we need to research, we need to be comfortable. If you got to ask somebody, but the answer can't be, you know what, I'm not going to take this life-saving shot because of racism.
I have no plans to be vaccinated. I feel like it should be a choice of individuals. I don't think it should be something you should be forced to do or forced to have to be licensed or in condition of what's going on in your regular day-to-day. But I do think it's an important discussion to be had, no matter if you feel you should take it or not, because there's different levels of family involved in it. But I do also still believe it should be your personal choice. But I don't know, I welcome any conversation about it, and I do think that's something that has to be discussed more in person with people, because it's something that's not being talked about.
The conversation has to be had, especially in our community, especially in the Black community. Listen to this brother and hearing his concerns are concerns that I hear all the time. I just don't want fear and distrust to cause us to do ourselves harm on something that is preventable. I think we have to get better in messaging. I think that conversations like this are necessary, whether it obviously isn't changing this brother's mind, but it may provide some information that people can go back and look up. Hopefully, I've brought up some things, and hopefully, he's brought up some things that we can do research on. And at the end of the day, that's what we have to protect ourselves. But you can only defeat bad science
With good
with good
science.
science. You can only defeat bad information with proper information. It benefits all of us. It benefits our families. It benefits, our sons and daughters, our children, our mothers, our grandmothers. We all want the same thing.
All right, so that's the discussion. You heard it all earlier. You heard me pick and point out some things in the discussion that was problematic. I think Brother Chill did a very good job in handling the conversation. He was going to wear a mask, but he's fully vaccinated, and that brother was not. So, in a previous conversation, they found out if he asked if the guy had ever had COVID before. He said he did not know. He never had a test. This brother, as you can see, looked very the part, right? He looked conspired. So what I want to do right now is I dropped a link in the chat. I don't want to revisit certain parts of this video by myself. I've watched it like 6 times. There was a lot that he said earlier on, and Chill ended up catching him about the mortality and the survival rate. He ended up catching him on that. But he also caught him on some other spots. But the fact that he said at the beginning of the conversation that he wasn't taking the vaccine because of his belief, and we never really understood that at all. I don't think this brother has a belief at all, and he has 11 children. So as a brother with 11 children, this is what we get.
My name is Clarence Johnson. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, the Mount Pleasant area. I'm pro-choice when it comes to the vaccination, but me personally, I do not plan on taking it, just based on my personal belief system.
All right. So as I stated, you heard him say it himself, just based on his personal belief system. His personal belief system. And then he continues.
I believe to each his own, and you have to make the decision that is best for yourself.
So he believes that it's to each his own, and he believes that you should make the best decision for yourself. The brother doesn't understand that we're in a public health crisis, and personal decisions are a public problem.
I'm a father of 11.
Do I feel that things are serious? Yeah, I think they are serious. I think they've been serious. It's a pandemic. It's worldwide.
It's hard to say something that's serious with the 98 survivor
that we live.
Now, I believe the moderator asked this question, but it was cut off because they were trying to show a flow within the framework. I wish Chill was here to help us break it down. But I believe, they were asked about, is this a serious matter? And this brother says he doesn't believe that it was serious because of a 98% survival rate. However, the mortality rate is over 626,000 people. 138 million infected. If I'm correct, that has been infected at least one time, and people being reinfected as we know it for a second time. And we know the serious illnesses that have came out of those people infected. And we also know that there's been double lung transplants. There's been all kind of surgeries and things of that nature to fight against the spread of disease that has overtaken people's bodies. So the threat of the seriousness of SARS-CoV-2 is legit. You have at this point almost 5 million people that have transitioned because of a virus, a novel virus. But let me go back a little bit and let's hear it.
Know how to survive, how to be social, how to love each other. It's change the way that we live.
To be honest, it's hard to say something that's serious with a 98 survival rate. It seems like it's more propaganda than anything, because there's so many different stories that you hear from people who are affected by those who die, but then there's so many who are just getting sick and aren't actually dying.
That bothers me, because you just said a 98% survival rate, and then you turn around and say people are getting sick. The logic behind the assessment is crazy. But I see, hold up. I see Brother D. Lou join the panel. Before I hit the play button, man, you got anything you want to say or you want to talk about real quick?
Nah, brother, I don't, man. I appreciate you going in as you usually do.
All right. What about the video? Well, what's your thoughts? What's your take on this video right here?
It's ridiculous, man. I mean, this is common, you know, especially in my age range. It's like, okay, so I'm 35 years old, right? So in this age range, we just do, as a people, we just do whatever is cute and whatever's popular on Twitter or IG or whatever, right? It's just a common thing. I don't even know if I've been trying to sit here and think of what's the real issue. Like, are you really afraid of genocide, or like, I'm trying to figure this thing out. I can't, and the only thing I can think of is people just trying to be rebellious, just to be arbitrary for social media. That's the only thing I can really see. It's a social thing. It's really not a matter of health. It's not a matter of anything. I feel like it's social pressure to be arbitrary. It has to be that. That's the only thing I could come up with. But I've been sitting here racking my brain. I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks. Like, what's the real issue here?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
All right, let me hit this play.
Just looking at it comparatively, there's more people who die from the flu in a year than have died from COVID-19 in the last year.
There's more people who die from the flu in a year that has died from COVID-19 this year. Now, at this point, ladies and gentlemen, this conversation just took place like 2 weeks ago or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. 2 weeks ago. So it's 2021, and count from November or December of 2019 to all the way up until now, we have 626,000 deaths and counting, because I think the tally is probably up more. And this dude says what he says. This is a clear cut. It don't get no clearer, but this is a clear cut indicator that he's uninformed. Because in his private interview, I think that I was told that the brother said something about people around him not dying. And Chill was like, that's not true, because I know where he stays. He's down the street. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's crazy. So let him continue.
So I can't take it seriously.
I'd really like, the data that I've seen is a little different, especially flu deaths compared to COVID deaths. We're probably at like 500,000 COVID deaths. I was kind of up on it from the very beginning. When I found out, you know, I mean, it's a pandemic, so everybody heard about it worldwide. I went to people that I trust, my doctors. I reached out to the immunologists. I need to reach out to people studying viruses, biology, anybody that I can try to. I'm looking to find what's in the vaccine, because now I gotta make a decision for my family. And so I went above and beyond to find out, you know, about this virus, at least what I could, and about the vaccine.
The primary basis for me making that decision is history. Throughout American history, The people who are seen as a minority in the country are often experimented on, or when something quote unquote new, because coronavirus is actually not new. When something new.
Okay, so his primary. Now, initially, his initial argument, he said on his personal belief system. Now he's saying, and I got to go back to it, we're getting a different feed.
Throughout American history, the people who are seen as a minority in the country are often experimented on, or when something quote unquote. Throughout American history, the people who are seen
I can't get this right.
Find out, about this virus, at least what I could, and about the vaccine.
The primary basis for me making that decision is history. Throughout American history, the people who are seen as a minority in the country are.
So the primary basis is history. Then he goes directly into Tuskegee and Chill. Look at Chill's face. He's like, come on, bro. You sending me down a rabbit hole. You trying to make me run amok here. But when I had a conversation with Chill, I said, when you have your conversation with the brother, you got to make it about the audience, the viewers, because those are the people that you'll be educating here. It's not going to be him. You're not going to convince him to do anything. He ain't doing nothing. He right here where he at. Twirling his fingers, not looking the brother Chill in his face, staying off to other parts of the world. Detached from reality, so to say.
Often experimented on.
Real quick,
go ahead.
brother. Real quick, brother. What? When they started, that's when I put it in chat. I was like, man, this brother he juggling the goalposts at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, he ain't even moving them now. At this point, he just juggling them. Like, where? All right, I stated where I think this sense of whatever this state of mind that they be in when they be, anti-vaccine. But where do you feel as though this really comes from? Because I just can't figure this thing out.
Ignorance.
Well, I mean, clearly they're ignorant, but I mean,
bro, all of this stems from ignorance. Nothing more, nothing less. The inability to be able to disseminate information and understand what you're viewing. Ignorance.
Do you think they're really trying to do so, though? That's what I'm saying. Like,
no. They have no intention of knowing.
Right. It's like, because again, like I put in the chat, I say, well, see, these aren't really even. These aren't really points of contention. This is just this is self-inflicted ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like because you're not even no. It's not even self-inflicted ignorance at this point, because it's denial. Because if they're really pointed, if these are really if these are really points of contention in a real argument or a real discussion, if you really have these points of contention, and these points of contention are met with, and they're explained at that point, and you're saying you're basing your decision on these points of contention. Once these points of contention have been satisfied, your decision therefore must change. If this is true, then this. But it's no longer true. It's false at this point. So what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. This is, as you can see, my reaction is the same reaction of Chill's face, yo. The truth of the matter, because ultimately, we don't know what we're doing. We're spaced out. When we deny our ability to be able to know better, we don't take that. We don't take up that position. Instead, we yielded to laziness, right? And That's what it is. So now we put the onus on people that we trust to have the answer to a question that we're unfamiliar with, and that answer to that question really ain't in the information; it's in the personality. Sutek said he a memeologist, but brother Sutek, what's up, man? What's good?
Yeah, man. I guarantee you he a memeologist. He one of those that reply or rebuttal to scientific information with a meme. I guarantee you. I don't get what one thing I don't get is when they say, "Oh, the COVID has 90 something so and so percent recovery rate." Like
Yeah.
y'all mentioned, the mortality is over 600,000 people have died. Yo, I
Could
don't
be
you
more.
like it could be more. I mean, you gonna put
Cause
an
that's an
arbitrary right because you don't know how many people.
yeah.
We still learn, we still figuring this shit out. But like you're gonna put an arbitrary percentage on a human life. Like I don't get that. I don't give a damn if 200,000 people died. Like that's death, yo. And even if you get COVID and you survive it, your potential to transmit it to somebody else, and you potentially could transmit it to somebody else, and they might not handle it as well as you handle it. They might get sick. They might get severe COVID. They might get long haul COVID. They might die. So it's very irresponsible to just think of yourself in these type of situations. But I'm gonna mute out and let the brother keep building.
Do you think that he knows what long COVID is?
I doubt it. I highly doubt
That's
because he ain't. I mean, if you familiar with long haul COVID, that means you read. That means you studying the data. And from the brother answers, I don't see nothing that would give me the impression that he's studying any of the data.
Brother Sute, man, Brother Sean, quick question. Do we need to? That's my whole thing. Do we really need to? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I know we need to be informed. That's a fact. But what I'm saying is the best, the best scientists in the world done told us what's up. What are we doing? We gonna be smartest person in the room? That's what we doing?
well, I don't see a
man.
problem. I don't see a problem with a person going behind scientists, what they say, and checking the actual data. I don't have no problem with that. But you know what I'm saying? As long as you following up.
I don't have that skill set. You have. I mean, if I start looking at everything that these immunologists and and biologists and all these guys, what they start looking at? If I'm a computer scientist, right? So if they start looking at what I look at every day, they're not gonna know what the hell is going on. If I start looking at what they look at every day, because this is an issue, this is a biology issue, I won't be able to. I mean, again, I can't make up that educational gap.
Right. Yeah, Unc says that all the time. But I think this is how we do it, right? We learn enough to know how to make an informed decision, because at the ultimate goal is to have all the data possible for you to make the decision. Like you heard Chill in the video, he said, I asked around, I asked questions, I'm trying to make an informed decision before I decide if my family's gonna get this vaccine. I need to know what's in it. I need to do this. We're supposed to question those things. We're not supposed to just dismiss it, right? We're supposed to question it. All right, is this going to be something that I need that I need to prepare myself for and make sure that this is right for my family? Like as a man of my house, as an example, as a man of my house, knowing I got these kids, I got everybody that I need to make sure that I'm protecting. I got my family members, other people that entrusting me with this responsibility to know And once they realize that I have some type of command for it, can I properly inform them on what this is, what it's doing, how it performs, and will it help us? So as a man, and our humanly instinct is to be protectors and providers, I feel like we just need to know enough to know if we're going to make a decision to get this or not. As far as going the extra mile, like some of us actually do, that's different. On a surface level, you can learn enough to know. You're not going to get into understand R not. You're not going to get into RBD, receptor binding domain. You're not going to get into spike. But the media going to help you learn some of this stuff because it's being cycled in the news so much. You know, breakthrough infections. People wasn't talking about no damn breakthrough infections. The media made it a circulating conversation, which provokes anti-vaxxers to continue to use the rhetoric that they use. However, but just learning the basics, you need to know about vaccine science. What is this vaccine? How does the vaccine work? Let me go over the ingredients. What is this particular vaccine attempting to do, right? You had people saying that it modified your DNA, which in return gonna make you a mutant. You had all of that stuff going on. So you got to know a little something to combat that in case your spouse, your children, your mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, people in the community have these questions, right? But 9 times out of 10, the elderly ain't playing with you. They hear about a novel virus. They've known their entire lives have been based around getting vaccinated through all the trials and tribulations. And depending on how old they are, they might have been around when the instance of smallpox was just going away. We're talking you know what I'm saying, like that 19, or even dealing with the Spanish flu, right? You have those instances in history where some people that are still here have went through all of that and understand vaccinations and the importance of vaccinations and what they're going to do to protect themselves. They don't play no games. It is the people that are around, it's sadly, but some people in their 50s, some people in their 40s, a lot of people in their 40s, the majority in their 30s and below. So there's laziness that exists within us that refrain us from learning. And this is what I said on social media. People have a TikTok attention span. Everything has to be microwave now. So nobody's willing to do the work. If it can't be caught on the first snap, they're afraid to go the extra few snaps to fully understand that, or get with the right people that can help you understand it, because we're not going to understand these scientists. I mean, these virologists, epidemiologists, they're all scientists, but we're not going to understand epidemiologists, virologists, and so forth, and immunologists right now, because like you said, B, we can't make that educational gap up. But if we got some people that can understand what they're saying or know what they're talking about, then we can we're not trying to close the gap, but we can understand the information, and now we can make it more reliable. And then then we can follow the data. See, the whole thing about my book is what SARS-CoV-2 taught me is to walk people through that whole process, the methodology, the steps that was taken, how to break certain things down, just using a tool to be able to answer a question that you have. And at the end of the day, you're supposed to come to a solid decision. But if you've already made your decision on something, then you're not going to hear the information accordingly. And this is what Brother Chill was facing during this whole discussion. So B, I just think that no, we're not going to, some of us are not going to close the educational gap, but some of us can pull from the resources that we actually have and each one teach one.
Agreed. Agreed on that.
All right, so let me just play.
When something quote unquote new, because coronavirus is actually not new. When something new happens, they experiment on that group of people to figure out how to go around it. One thing that comes to mind would be the incident in Tuskegee. That within itself is something that bothers me because that's not really that long ago in actuality. And if the same government was able to do something like that, how could they not do it now at a wider scale? Tuskegee was, if I have the right event, that had something to do with syphilis. And it was people who were brought to a clinic who were told that whether it was an experimental drug or it was something they would take that would help them, when in actuality they knew what they were injecting it with.
He Tuskegee'n itself. Facts. So, real quick, I paused it right here because this is a crucial point in the Black community. Is that when you hear about vaccine rollout and the seriousness of a virus and people being really when you don't want to get a vaccine, you have more people being anti-establishment. And I said that in the previous bill. This is an attempt to be anti-something, to take a social stance against the government or out of ignorance, because the government ain't got shit to do with a virus, but yet here we are, and they have to deal with it just like we have to deal with it too. So that's acceptable of a lot of things. But Jeremy, man, sorry to hear about that, brother. You know what I'm saying? I know you and your better half, man, your significant other, man, y'all are vaccinated, and then to turn around and hear about the battle with the family members and 2 strokes and all of that stuff, man, that's crazy, man. You know, we with you, bro. I mean, whatever support we can provide, lean you or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We're here. We're here for you. That's about the best that we can do. And, you know, hopefully this is a learning experience from the family. And hopefully not one in ignorance, but one in intelligence to let them know, hey, let me stop playing with nature. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're playing with. They ain't playing with me. They ain't playing with you. They're playing with nature. And when nature wants to ravage the body, it will. See, 2 strokes and in the hospital right now. All of that is preventable with a vaccine. This is a preventable disease. And we keep falling for the okie doke.
Okay, this is an important step in what's happening now, in my opinion, and that's our historical relationship with things that the government has done. It's specifically in the medical service. I think that we get the wrong message from what happened in Tuskegee, and I think it affects our decision making. First of all,
now, Chill made an excellent point right here, but I want to make sure, I want to know if y'all agree with him. I'm going to play it back again because some people might have missed what he said. And y'all let me know if y'all agree with what he's saying right here.
This is an important step in what's happening now, in my opinion, and that's our historical relationship with things that the government has done. It's specifically in the medical service. I think that we get the wrong message from what happened in Tuskegee, and I think it affects our decision making.
So, do y'all believe, or do y'all agree or disagree with Chill taking a position to say that when it comes to medical information and things of that nature, that because of Tuskegee, this is where some of this misinformation and things like that lie? He's putting the onus back directly on it. If I'm gonna let y'all hear it again.
In the medical service, I think that we get the wrong message from what happened in Tuskegee, and I think it affects our decision making.
Do you agree that the wrong information affects your decision making? Chill out here spitting balls. B, Sutek.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, bro. Like, I mean, I think we had this conversation before, but I used to live in Tuskegee. I went to Tuskegee graduated. I got did all that in Tuskegee. I worked at the VA hospital where some of the people who actually had parents that were affected by the whole the syphilis study. So I mean, I've experienced it firsthand. I know exactly. Yeah, man, man, our community is majorly messed up behind that misinformation.
Yeah, I definitely agree too. Misinformation is the prime suspect that I see, at least, from the social media posts to what people saying on the street. Most people honestly just regurgitating something that they done heard from social media or some random person off the street as well. So it's just a barrage of misinformation and misconceptions, scientific ignorance. We don't understand the science behind vaccines, COVID, mRNA, any of that, but we are the first ones to speak. Disregard the data, disregard the experts in the field, and I don't mean a regular physician or a nurse. I mean immunologists, virologists, pulmonologists, all these guys that's actually have a hand in said fields that are related to COVID and COVID-19 vaccines. We disregard everything they say to bring up a goddamn meme, like that's something that really pisses me off. But yeah, misinformation, misconceptions are what I think is driving this crazy ass movement.
Facts. Facts.
You said a dope word there, a barrage of misinformation. That's exactly what it is.
Trying to diversify my vocabulary.
First of all, the study itself is called the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in Negro Males. So right there, the name of the study tells you that what happened is they didn't treat us. They had a cure at the time, which was penicillin, and they withheld it. What those brothers needed in Tuskegee was a shot. They did not give us a shot. But we have a collective false memory as Black people to think they injected us with syphilis. But what they did do was horrible. It was tragic. To let somebody have a disease, not tell them that they have it, and then not only not treat them when a treatment is available, but to watch them spread it, get sicker and sicker and die. And this went on from 1932 to 1972. And I'm famous now for saying we're Tuskegee'ing ourselves, because instead of the government withholding that treatment from us, we're now withholding the treatment from ourselves. Okay, he also brought up measles, mumps, rubella, MMR.
No, that's something that's a vaccination that you're required to take before a certain age. I have small children, so there's certain things that they have to take in order to attend school, and that's one of those things they have to take before they even enter the first grade.
That's not just your kids; that's everybody. That's us as well. But that's an instance where that was a successful vaccine. I mean, you might have alluded to when you were talking about that. I got the understanding that you thought that there were not successful vaccines.
No, it's not that they weren't successful. This is the process that they had to go through to actually be able to create these vaccines. The time that it took, the research that it took to create the vaccines for something they were already studying previously. Right. So now we have something that they have the history on. Let's say that it's actually the 19th.
But you know that they came up with that vaccine like in the 50s?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is 2021. You can't expect the science to stay at the same level that it was. What I want to say is this vaccine that we're working on now is better than those vaccines back then. I don't know if you remember, the anti-vaxxers
have had a problem with the MMR vaccines because they said they had part of the virus in them or they had mercury in them. These current vaccines, they have no form, dead, weakened, no form of the virus in it. This is a whole new science. This is a science that's going to change the game for the better of us, not to the detriment of us. The question is, the way that we know it, it plays itself out. The same thing with all the other vaccines that we've had. The people could have said that about the MMR vaccine. Measles was worldwide. Polio was crippling children all over this country. We've almost eradicated that with our scientific progress. We stand on the shoulders of our successes. You know, it's been so long ago that we cured measles and mumps and polio. We forget how much beneficial vaccines are. We can afford to say we don't want to take vaccines because we have benefited from vaccines. So the process of creating vaccines, the science of it has progressed. When you talked about the test, the trials, they went through all three of the clinical trials, all three levels for this vaccine. They didn't shortcut it. The success of it, we got to like 95 efficacy rate on the first two that came out, the Moderna and the Pfizer. This is not the first coronavirus. And that's part of the answer why it didn't take them as long. They were already familiar with the coronavirus, SARS, MERS. Those are various viruses, coronavirus because of the crown on the virus. But this specific one, which they named COVID-19, is a different variant of coronavirus. But you're right, because they already were familiar with coronaviruses and they had already been working in general on vaccines for different viruses, when this specific one came around, it's scientists all over the world, black ones, white ones, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Swiss, waiting for the code. All we need is the molecular code for this virus, and we're ready to start working on a vaccine right now. So one, they already were working on the process, especially the mRNA. They were already working on that technology. Two, coronaviruses in general weren't foreign to them. And three, man, we got some of the coldest scientists worldwide working on vaccines. We know more about this vaccine than we've ever known about any vaccine.
The government is supposed to help us be protected from COVID-19. Obviously not educate us on the right mask to wear. That's to me that.
All right.
Spell COVID backwards, though.
Yo, Sutek, this dude logic is frustrating me because, all right, let me just say this. The brother, right? The brother says if they supposed to be educating us on COVID-19, why they ain't educating us on a proper mask to wear? All this stuff Chill just said, this dude brings the conversation to a mask. Dude, can somebody help me? Huh?
Go ahead. I was just going to say he disregarded everything Chill just said about the advancement of scientific technology to go and talk about masks. Like, Chill makes a point, and dude doesn't address that point directly. Like he's
exactly.
It's a pattern. I noticed that pattern.
Exactly, brother. That's I hate to cut you off, brother. That is exactly what I go through every day, bro. When I'm talking to these people, man, they never address what you say. That's what I'm saying. Like when you actually have they got legit gripe with something, and once you satisfy that gripe, then you have to change what was conditional based on that. You have to logically, or you just talking at this point.
Facts. So So here's my stance on that. Here's my stance on that. You diverted because you didn't want to deal with something. But why are you worried about a mask against a virus that is affecting people? And as you said earlier, people are getting sick. Even the people that recovered, they're getting sick too. So do you think a mask is going to prevent you from getting sick? No. The mask prevents you from transmitting the virus to someone else. It reduces transmission. So if you got on, no matter if you got on the right mask or the wrong mask, the mask is going to reduce transmission. The right mask is going to increase the reduction of transmission. This is how we know masks work. Because you can have on a mask, it could be covering your mouth and your nose, and somebody could be talking to you that ain't got on a mask, and you can transmit something to them, but they ain't gonna transmit something to you. If it's not necessarily in that context, because you can in that conversation, but I'm saying the transmissibility regarding the mask versus no mask is higher in one than it is the person with the mask. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right.
Without confusing.
There you got to couple it up with social and physical distancing, because like you mentioned earlier, those respiratory droplets can come out the sides of those masks, and which is what is much better than being projected right towards the person that you're talking to, because it will go right towards their face. So you want to give that distance between you and that person that you're talking to, even with those masks on, because those respiratory droplets, like Sean said earlier, will come out the sides. That's why they have those. That's why they have you. You want to have that that ventilation on the sides. You know what I'm saying? Because it's gonna come right out the sides, as opposed to going directly towards the person that you're talking to and affecting them head on. Chef in the building. Oh nah, you don't want to you don't want to left me by myself. Okay. But yeah, man, I did a PowerPoint presentation on this Kobe Pie TV talking about masks. Well, it was talking about the precautions, the the safety precautions that we should be taking during this pandemic. It was actually, I think, before the vaccines came out. So what we had then was masks, regardless of what kind of mask you got. This only gonna help, and it's only gonna help if we all wear masks. Because, like Sean said, it's not to prevent you from coming in contact with it; it's to prevent transmission. Also, coupled with social and physical distancing. Also, coupled with washing your hands. You got to wash your hands properly, which means a good lather of 20 to 30 seconds, a good rinse of about 20 seconds, and drying your hands off thoroughly. Because if you don't wash your hands properly, then you're defeating the whole purpose. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, we got that on Kofi Pie TV. Matter of fact, I'm gonna try to drop it in the chat for anybody who want to go back and check it out. But yeah, man, we got to get vaccinated. These vaccines are out now. There's no, there's no reason why you should be concerned about a mask if your ass ain't gonna take the vaccine. Just like we just said, that mask is that's not gonna That's not gonna save you, bro. That's not gonna save you. Yeah, man. Let me see. Oh, homeboy dropped off. Put the link back in the chat in case anybody else want to come through. But yeah, science is, as we say, self-correcting. So, just like Chill said, I would much rather you tell me you made a mistake or error and correct that error, as opposed to just going with it and letting it ride. Because if they would have let that ride, it would have caused a lot of misconceptions, more misconceptions than we already have, and it would have caused a lot more transmission.
Facts. Yeah, I was trying to order them something to eat. All right. So again, man, I just think the dude Logic jacked all the way up from the beginning to the end. And Chill admitted it in his assessment that he was pretty much chasing the guy, but he was trying to correct the guy. And I wish we had the full extent or the version of the actual video, because we could go through there and deal with it ourselves. Let me see. Let's hear some more of it. I mean, I know we done heard it once, but when you hear it more than once, man, you kind of can catch the fade real quick.
That's a valid question. If
It is.
COVID-19 is something that nobody really knows about, supposedly, and it's something that's being researched on, and you're supposed to give us the information. Once you go through the research, how's the information you're giving us not even valid from week to week? Like, so these are the same people that are giving this information that you're depending on to kind of make your point of view, as well as what you're seeing and the depth you're seeing. So if half of what you're getting is not reliable, and the other half you're getting is just by visual experience, how do you even decide which one to trust?
Okay, first of all, again, I'm not listening to the politicians. I'm not listening to the government. I'm listening to the doctors, to the biologists, to immunologists, to the virologists. I'm listening to the experts that have to study this, not the politicians. They're gonna tell you anything. I think history tells us that we don't always have to go by that. But one thing I want to tell you, you say when things change, they tell you one thing this week and another thing next week. That's how science works. That given more information, the information can change. It's called the novel virus because it's new. You're never going to get 100% of the information off the rip from something brand new. So again, that's how science works. That's why they follow the data. That's why they continue to study. If they find out that this works better later on, I feel better that they can, if they find out something is incorrect, I feel better that the process is self-corrective. Yeah, that they can tell you, you know what, we got that wrong. I'd rather for them to tell me that they got it wrong than to keep it wrong and not tell me.
You're basically saying that the medical experts aren't experts because it was something that's new. They've had no previous time to study, so all the information they're learning is not expert opinion. It's just a good guess.
It's not an opinion. It's what the data says. It's not. Science isn't opinion driven. Medicine isn't opinion driven. You find out more information as it goes by, and you adjust with the best information that you can get.
The coronavirus has a 97% survival rate. So by it being a 97% survival rate, most people that are being affected are those who are in old age or have a predisposed to some other disease or some kind of illness, are the people who are dying from it. And just sticking to coronavirus, what is so serious about something that 97% of the Americans survive from, that all the attention from the scientific community is only on this subject and no other viral compound has been around now? Everything is just focused on COVID-19.
First of all, my answer to that is when you say,
all right, again, what do y'all think about his logic right then and there? Because it's like he's going in circles for Sutek. wanted to show you something real quick. Look, his food right there. I ain't mean to break the bill, y'all. But look, his food right there, and he won't eat. He
And I be
hungry.
doing the same thing. You gotta eat out my hand. I'm like, you're a weirdo.
Nah, that ain't it.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Watch
It's like
watch
the vaccine.
Watch Tyson, go eat. That's why he
Boy, been putting some trainer work in or something, man.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, he'll wait. But yeah, what do you think about that, man? His logic is he running, right? When Chill answer a question, then he makes it, right? Because it's like it's irrelevant to him to answer that.
But my whole thing is this as well. I had a question about this. Why is everybody's barometer of success death or not?
Right.
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't. Really don't. Don't try what I just did at home with your dog because you might get bit. But nah, man. This dude is just weird to me. You know. I'm trying to be nice and respectful, but at the same time, I really want to be disrespectful to the guy. You know what I mean? Because first of all, you know, you don't know anything outside of the same thing that you keep talking about. And you keep going back to, you know, this efficacy, this mortality versus survival rate. And that's what's getting me. Let me try to find something real quick while doing this. But yeah, so what's y'all full take on that, man? What's up?
Yeah, we gotta start nailing them down to one point at a time, and instead of letting them move on to the next point, we need to make sure that we can come to an agreement on the first point. Like if you make a claim and I show you data to the contrary, I'm not gonna let you move around to the next subject. We gonna either come to an agreement on this, or I don't feel like we need to further continue to have a discussion because that's just disingenuous.
Right.
Exactly. Good point. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, so what I want to do is let's get an expert opinion on this, right? Let's get an expert opinion on death rate. Death rate explained. We're gonna go back to last year. A video from last year is what I want to deal with. I don't want to deal with it this year because people was dealing with this last year. And let's see what Zong got to say about it, man. I think he a good person to, that we can refer to as well. And he be doing them little stabs. I wish I had his perfection. I'd be doing them like in a heartbeat, but they're experts for a reason.
Hey everybody, Dr. Z. Okay, I came here for this live broadcast back today because so many people are talking about the CDC data that was just tweeted out by the president and then removed by Twitter for being fake information. And it has led to a storm of misunderstandings about what this data means. And worse yet, we're really getting to a point where we're just absolutely becoming scientifically illiterate. So what I want to do is quickly explain what's going on so you can make your own decisions about what you think about this. All right, here's the deal. What happened was CDC released death certificate data for about 160,000 deaths that included COVID-19 on their death certificates. Now, any medical professional who fills out death certificates understands kind of how it's done. You list the main cause of death, and then anything that contributes. And so the certificate can have multiple things on it. You can have things that were pre-existing like diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and then you can have the main disease, like say it's COVID-19, and then you can have things that the COVID-19 might have led to in the visit, like respiratory failure, respiratory arrest, cardiac arrest, heart failure, adult respiratory distress syndrome, and you list all those things on the document. Now, here's what happened. What CDC did was they put all this out and they said, listen, 6% of all the fatalities that listed COVID-19 somewhere had only COVID-19 on the death certificate, meaning they didn't list anything else. Okay? And the way that was interpreted by people online who have a particular agenda, they don't agree with the way this is being handled. They think that the lockdowns are too severe. They think this thing is a hoax, whatever it is. The way it was interpreted is they said, well, this is crazy. It means that people have all these other medical problems that are listed on the death certificate. They're dying of those. And it just so happens they also have COVID. So they're dying with COVID instead of COVID. And that 6% is the true death rate. It's 6% of 160,000 or whatever that is. So it's vastly smaller, much less serious. Why are we doing all this? It's a hoax, and the CDC admits it in their data. Just stop for a second. I don't care what your politics are. I don't think if you disagree with what's happening and lockdowns are bad and masks are dumb and all that, look, I actually am sympathetic to you. But what I'm not sympathetic to is misunderstanding the science in the simplest form. Anybody who put that information out there saying, look, needs to be understood as a completely uncredible source of anything having to do with medicine ever. And this is why 6% of the death certificates said COVID, and that's it. Now that could mean that other people, that the people filling out the death certificates weren't complete. They didn't put all the other stuff, or COVID-19 was the only thing they had, and there were no other comorbidities, other diseases that the person had, and they truly died purely of COVID. And that's a real tragedy because we don't typically see that unless you're quite old, which was the majority of deaths, by the way, older people. All right, great. Next, what about all these other things, right? Well, just because you have diabetes and hypertension doesn't mean those killed you and you also had COVID. The opposite is most likely true because we know this from the basic physiology of how COVID works. It tends to affect people who already have other diseases like diabetes, hypertension, obesity, lung disease, immune compromise, cancer, things like that. And those people are particularly vulnerable to the effects, and they tend to die of the COVID because of their comorbidities, not with COVID and dying of the comorbidities. So that's already one distortion of this. These are comorbidities that allow COVID to kill you in most cases. Now, in some cases, absolutely, people were dying of something else. Accidents, if it's listed as an accident or something like that. Yeah, you died of the accident. You also tested positive for COVID. That means the tests are very sensitive. You were asymptomatic or whatever, and you died of something else. That's a small percentage of the people, but here's the worst part of it. Some of these comorbidities were things like adult respiratory distress syndrome, respiratory failure, pneumonia, cardiac arrest. And so the people would have you believe, oh yeah, they died of those things, not the COVID. Ding dong, that's what the COVID causes. That's why it's listed on the death certificate, because you had COVID and it led to respiratory distress, adult respiratory distress syndrome, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, and death. That's often how we fill out those death certificates. You list the major contributors to the demise of the patient. So, and if you don't believe that, if you still think, no, this stuff is falsified, people are just putting COVID on the death certificates, look at the overall excess death rate in the country. And I did a video on this already. The number of people that are dying overall of any cause versus the number you expect to die based on previous years at the same time of year. We have a huge excess mortality that actually exceeds the number of documented COVID-19 cases.
Come on, man. They try to dupe us. But I was on it. I was on it.
Which means either we're undercounting COVID or there's other things due to our lockdowns that are actually costing lives, right? Which brings me to this. Here's the thing. This has become so politicized, and this is what I want to say to people who want to believe this data means that we're overcounting stuff. You don't need to believe that to still feel that the response is worse than the disease, that the number of deaths did not justify what we've done to the country in terms of lockdowns, changing our freedoms, destroying our cultural fabric, increasing substance abuse, alcoholism, a lost generation who's not getting educated, mostly poor people, the economic destruction that's destroying businesses that'll never be back. You can still argue those things based on those principles without lying and distorting data. You don't need to. You have enough of a leg to stand on to have a civil debate, but we don't do that. We politicize everything. And the worst part of it is, what does Twitter do? They delete the tweet and say it's misinformation. Good going. You think then that the people who thought it was true are going to think it's less true because Twitter censored it? Let the tweet be out there. If the president wants to retweet it, let him retweet it and then let everybody go, well, this is actually what's going on. That's how you have a dialogue. You don't ban the tweet. It's insane, you guys. We've gotten to a point here where I had to drive in to do this because I knew if I waited another second, I was just going to get 1,000 messages. Hey, man, have you seen the 6% CDC data? Yeah, man, I saw it. Did you actually look at the data? Did you look at the actual chart? Because if you did, if you're anywhere in medicine, you'd be like, oh, yeah, that's not what they think it is. It's what I said. All right, guys? So this is I'm begging to you. Let's do the science right. Let's understand the science right. There's a lot of science that's great and we can argue back and forth. And good people will argue on all sides of the political spectrum. Good people on all sides of the political spectrum can argue about how we take care of this problem, how we address it. With if it's an iceberg and the tip of it is the deaths, you can argue that the rest of the iceberg is important too. That's fine. Make that argument. Don't misrepresent data and make yourself and your opinions look stupid, because that's what it does. It really riles me up because this is simple science. It's not that complicated, and we're a slave to social media, what they're feeding us, all of this. We need to start to think critically using the skill sets that we can easily develop with a little bit of training. All right, guys, I love you. Please share this video. Don't put a political spin on it. Just share it and go, here's a way to think about this critically, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the Sunday.
It's the CDC 6% death rate explained. That's the name of the video. This was directly at the conspiracy to misrepresent the data. It's the same thing with the Massachusetts study. When the CDC published the Massachusetts, the Barnesdale study, where they had the little, the LGBTQ convention, and they were expecting a mass amount of people to show up to that in Barnesdale, Massachusetts. And you had a party of vaccinated people and some unvaccinated, and you had breakthrough infections occur in that. And people are like, see what happened in Massachusetts? All these people was vaccinated and they all had breakthrough. 74% of them was breakthrough infections, but they didn't go further. They didn't go no deaths. They didn't say out of 7,000 people, only 100 people went to the hospital. They were treated and released. They don't go that far. They don't go with all the other percentage of people just had asymptomatic response, little light work, quarantine, they back at it. They don't talk about that. So the Barnesdale study was a success because there was no deaths, there was a low percentage of hospitalizations, and everybody else checked out. And this was against Delta, the Delta variant. So it proved that the vaccine was effective. This is another reason why I don't care nothing about the booster shot. I think we going too far. But that's where we at with that. You know what I'm saying? So this is misconstrued data. They take all the data and misconstrue it. Then they ignored the Kentucky study that talked about reinfection because people don't even care about reinfection. You don't believe me? You want me to go on Facebook and show you where people said they had COVID twice and act like it's acceptable? Oh, well, I had COVID twice already.
Real quick, Sean. You said something that I didn't quite understand what you meant. You said you don't care about a booster shot. You think we're going too far. What do you mean by that?
Right now, for those of us who have Pfizer or Moderna, mRNA, even Johnson & Johnson, we've already been vaccinated, fully vaccinated against the multitude of variants that out there that exist right now, even Delta, right? We're vaccinated. It's premature for us to get a third shot because the data shows even with the current Delta variant, if you're catching me, even with the current scientific data that we have, we're still, our vaccine dosage, second dosage, first dose, second dosage, it's still holding up against all variants in the country. All variants is still holding up. If you go look at the hospital rate, if you go look at the death rate, forget the reinfection rate. That doesn't mean much to us because 100% of new cases is new cases. There's no real true data on the reinfection rate for people unless they go to the hospital. They ain't counting the people who have an asymptomatic response because they are not having any symptoms. The hospital rate is what's indicative. If the hospital rate was at 40% or 50% in the vaccinated crew, we need a booster. If the death rate wasn't at 1% and it was at 20%, we need a booster. But we're still talking about single digits here for hospitalizations and death. The data is in our favor. At worst, this is all about unvaccinated people. And I'm gonna play something for you real quick, so you can. I just want to put a scientist on the job.
I just didn't understand what you meant. I understand totally what you're saying now. That makes sense.
Yeah, but I still want to give it some validity. So, my screen still sharing? No. All right, let me share my screen. All right. Let me share. Go ahead, Chase.
Nah, I'm just tripping off Zane in the chat. He say they think getting reinfected makes them stronger. They watch too much Dragon Ball Z. That's how they be really doing it, though. They really be like, yeah, I caught COVID 3 times, man. I'm fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So give me a second because I need to take my dog outside. I'm gonna play this, and I want y'all to listen to this joker. And then we'll wrap up because Dr. Ma'ai live, and people might want to catch that.
Everybody, welcome to Q&A with A and V. I'm Vincent Racaniello, and joining me tonight from New York, Amy Rosenfeld.
Hello,
Amy.
Vincent. How are you?
I'm well.
Do you want to tell them your exciting news? That your vacuum cleaner came?
Before we start, hello, Frank.
Hello.
Thank you for returning.
No, tell them where you were yesterday without the vacuum cleaner.
We all love Amy. There you go.
Thank you. But tell them without the vacuum cleaner.
Here's the story. Last week, someone said on the live stream, you need to be on Lex Friedman's podcast. I said, okay, tell him. The next day, I got an email from him inviting me to Austin. And Tuesday I flew down, did a 4-hour pod with him, just for proof. There he is. Okay. We'll have to take Amy off here. Sorry. That's Lex. That's me. And so there you have it, folks. You wanted me to do it. I did it. Okay.
And it will be released when?
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't ask. It was 4 hours, as I said, and that is a lot of time. But we had a great conversation. And I have to tell you something, folks. While we were recording, he gets a phone call. He said, I have to take this. And it's Joe Rogan. They're buddies. So he chats with Rogan. He said, I'm recording with this guy, Vincent Racianello. Oh, my God. Come on. And he has this podcast, This Week in Virology. You know about it? He said, no, I could hear him all the way across the room. His voice is so loud. So I'm thinking I could go on Joe. I could work Lex to get me on Joe. I know a lot of you don't like that. But, you know, Rogan is not vaccinated. He's worried about long-term effects. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, okay, folks, that's the news of the week. I just got back today from Austin. I had dinner Tuesday night with Rich Condit, where I learned that Texas chili doesn't have any beans in it. I didn't know that.
I knew way before you did. I grew up knowing that.
I didn't know that. I tasted it. It was pretty good. I had a enchilada. We went to the Texas Chili Parlor, which interestingly was right next to the governor's mansion.
So you had a side of SARS-CoV-2 for dessert.
Inside of which was the governor with his positive COVID test after being vaccinated. They also gave him monoclonals.
Yeah, I know. And remdesivir, I think. But I might be wrong.
And all he was PCR positive. He had no symptoms. I think that's crazy. So that's the news for the week.
So when are you going to go use the vacuum cleaner? Most importantly is the vacuum cleaner.
Well, I think after TWIV on Friday, I'll go use the vacuum. I'll go and do more stuff. There's a lot of stuff here that has to be done. Before we take questions, there one issue I wanted to just chat about for 5 minutes. And this week, the narrative, there's always a narrative every bloody week, right? The narrative this week is boosters. The CDC and White House, not White House, but Fauci and the CDC are pushing we need boosters. So I've been doing a lot of reading. You know what? We don't need boosters. We don't need boosters. Let me show you a couple of papers just released today by CDC, which they say claims you need boosters. This one here, they looked at nursing home residents, effectiveness of the mRNA vaccines before and after circulation of the Delta variant. So the bottom line here is that effectiveness of the vaccines that's declined from 74 to 53%. But whenever you see the word effective, folks, what do? You ask, what are you talking about? And what they're talking about in this paper, if we scroll down here, it's just laboratory confirmed infection.
No, it's laboratory confirmed PCR.
PCR, not even infection.
RNA. It's just presence of RNA. You can't say it's infectious.
And they don't even know what kind of disease they have. Let's see here where it says this. This analysis assessed vaccine efficacy without being able to distinguish between asymptomatic and symptomatic. So we don't know if any of these people were sick. Okay, fine. That's Article 1. Here's Article 2. COVID cases in New York from May to July. Okay. What happened? During May 3rd to July, vaccine effectiveness against hospitalization, hey, in New York, they know how to do this, was relatively stable. Really, the vaccine prevents you from being hospitalized. So in other words, we don't care if you get infected, which Amy and I have been saying for ages. And then one more. Here is a US study, again, March to July, mRNA vaccines. Vaccine effectiveness, 86%, and against hospitalization again, 86% at 2 to 12 weeks and 84% at 13 to 24 weeks. So the effectiveness remains. Now, this is a 2% decline, which I think is probably not statistically significant. But the Surgeon General said today, we have evidence that the effectiveness against disease is declining. And I think that's what he was referring to.
2% is a calculation error.
It's ridiculous. So, folks.
Wait, what about the paper that I sent you earlier today, too? That talks about the year-long thing. I think it was a science paper. I sent you some papers.
Yes, there were multiple. There are multiple papers that also show that efficacy against disease stays the same. The bottom line is, I see no evidence that we need a booster at this time.
Yeah, they're just measuring antibodies, and antibodies are going to always decline. You want them to decline, otherwise you get you have too high an antibody count, and you get like autoimmune disease or whatever. You get bad things happen. Now, question is whether or not, you know, when you get reinfected in a year, your immune response clears the virus with either mild or no symptoms, right? Or you don't even get really infected. That's really the question. And you can't do that experiment till now because you're not a year away. I mean, a year is a year. It's like...
So what they're doing is an amateur thing. They are forgetting that for all vaccines, antibody levels decline after
everything. It's not
for
a vaccine.
Everything. For everything.
It's not a vaccine. The problem is now the administration has come out and said that if you are a nursing home and you don't vaccinate your residents and healthcare workers, you have the jeopardy of losing federal funding. So at this point, you might as well just vaccinate. Yeah. It's a Wall Street Journal article. At this point, you might as well just vaccinate.
That's like Florida saying, if you have a mask mandate, we're going to take away your funding. That's really the same thing. I'm very disappointed.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. And I'm very disappointed. So
the point of it all is that you have a virologist on his weekly Q&A show. Sutek, me, Anush, everybody, we in the chat. You have him sitting here telling people why a booster is not required. And Amy is telling you the proper way to do it is to wait a year, test against infection to see if your vaccine is still holding up, and therefore you will know if one is needed or not. But they already have came out and said that there was a long shot immunity that had been showing positiveness in the vaccines because of how well it was doing. The data still shows. Now let's just do this real quick, and then I see the brother was asking something in the chat. 12, bro. What you mean? You ain't up on this? I'm disappointed in you. Them 2-volume books I got belonging to them, that's where I got it from. But let's see what the what I want to see. John Hopkins. I want to see the John Hopkins COVID tracker. Now, this is going to show us the world, right? It's going to show us all the deaths and stuff. I think it's going to show us, it's going to show us cases. It's going to show us death rates, regions, all that stuff. Once it uploads. So we're almost at total vaccine doses administered. Look, 4 billion vaccine doses. Billion. 44. We need to be at like 6. We need to be at like 6 or 6.5 billion people vaccinated. I think it's 8 billion people in the world, somewhere around there. Anyway, the US, right? Total deaths is 627,000. Infected cases is 37,000. Let's see if we can go to the US real quick. All right, so 37 million cases, 627,000. We were saying 624, 627 now. Here go all the numbers right here. 28-day case report, 6 million. 28-day death, 31,000 deaths. So we know still that from January to July, 99% of the deaths was in the unvaccinated. January to July, 98% or 99% of the hospitalizations were in unvaccinated. See what I'm saying? Those numbers haven't changed. So let's see if the CDC has a update on the vaccinated deaths. So DHS releases new data on COVID-19 death. Let's see what this says. I think this is going to be restricted to in one place. Oh, and where I gotta go? Breakthrough infections. Oh, this ain't giving me what I need. I don't think this is up to date yet. So here we go. Hospitals as of, but see, this is as of May. So all right, but not really as of May because they're going in data. But as of August the 9th, all right, as of August the 9th, there was hospital or fatal vaccine breakthrough cases is at 8,000. As of August the 9th, there's 8,054 breakthrough infections who were hospitalized or died. All right, now 25% of 7608 hospitalizations reported as asymptomatic. 21% of 1,587 fatal cases reported as asymptomatic or not related to COVID. Okay, so you look at the chart right here, female, and I said this before, females drive the number, not males. 38 over, like dang near half of the people that's dying are females, and they're over the age of 65, 74%. So they're older people that are 65 and above that are having the breakthroughs that are actually passing away. I mean, I'm sorry, having breakthroughs. Damn, not getting there. But all right, anyway, 20% of that total was the deaths. 70, look, they go in the hospital, but it's all older people. But this 1587 is important. So now you take 1587 and you take that breakthrough and then you divide it by the 627, right? So 1587 breakthrough deaths, and you do deaths for deaths. Do I got a calculator on here?
They got that percentage calculator on Google.
I got it right here. I'd say 627. Come on, yo. 1587 divided by, is you dividing? 627. There you go. So there's the mortality rate when you go on deaths for deaths. It's 0.002%. So this 0.002% facilitated into the death rate. It doesn't show. Remember what I said earlier, B, if you still here. This doesn't tell me that I need to get a booster shot.
I'm still here, brother. I'm still here. Yeah. I'm peeping what you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Now, watch this. So let me take the 1587 deaths, divide that by 170 million people vaccinated. Nah, that ain't gonna be right. That ain't gonna be right. That's wrong. Nope. Let's take. Okay, so it's only now. I'm gonna leave it where it's at because it's deaths for deaths. I ain't gonna do no how many people vaccinated against that because it's even less. So that's just wrong math. I'm gonna stay at 0.002% of the overall death rate is in breakthrough infections. But what we do know is most breakthrough infections, the majority of the breakthrough infections are in people over 65. Over 65, right? We know almost 6,000 deaths. There's your mic open. We know over 6,000 deaths out of the 8,000 deaths are in people over, not deaths, but infections are Oh, you muted.
I gotta go.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm muted.
Okay. So we know that 6,000 of the 8,000 are people. Breakthrough infections are over the age of 65. We know out of the 8,000, almost 4,000 of them are females. All right, and we know the hospitalization rate is high in those breakthrough infections because you get almost 6,000 people over the age of 65. So you have a high number of hospitalizations, but the death rate is only 1587. So now we bring the calculator back and we want to go hospitalizations. What's the hospitalization? Let's see if it's going to tell me how many people hospitalized. This is important. Current 7-day total cases reported prior. See, this ain't gonna give me exactly what I need. I'm looking for a specific number of hospitalized people. Because what I'm trying to do, and I think y'all are on to what I'm trying to do now, is I'm trying to put the numbers against each other, hospitalizations versus hospitalizations. So let's see. Hospitalizations, total new admissions. This ain't gonna give me a true answer, but it's gonna give me total new admissions is 2.5 million. All right, so I'm gonna take my, how many did I have? 7608. I'm gonna take 7608. I'm gonna divide it by 2587871 and look at the math. It's identical to the other one. So again, if only 0.002% of the population is being hospitalized with breakthrough infections and 0.002% the death rate, people that have a breakthrough infection and transition, I'm cool. I don't need a booster. There's my argument.
Sean, let me ask you one quick question, brother. Is that, my understanding, I was thinking, what I was really thinking about was how are we saying that the effectiveness of the vaccine has reduced? That's what can we even measure that right now? I think that's what the one young lady, the scientist was stating, we need to.
Yes, she was saying we need to wait to measure
Right.
it. We wait a
Right.
year to measure it because we're
Right.
really not going to get a true number. So
Right.
no, they do this every day, so they know exactly what they know exactly what to ask and what they're looking for, because
Right.
they're so data driven that they know so damn much that they know, okay, so what is this then? How do you get that? Where is this at? This is sloppy information. You're overreacting because of Delta. Delta got everybody in the frenzy. Vince told me a year ago, he says, well, not me, but everybody a year ago, that we're gonna see new variants emerge. It's going to happen. This is an RNA virus. It's going to mutate and adapt when it settles in a new host. He said all of that. So that's where we at, man. And this is why I said what I said regarding the vaccine. That's why I said I don't need a booster. Now you see my point?
Yeah, brother. I kind of do. I still don't see how, if the contrary were true, how would that prove that you did need a booster? That's what I'm saying. I think that's what I'm getting at. I mean, even let's just say that all those numbers were wrong.
No. You look at this is what you're looking at. The only way that we're measuring this is by vaccinated. How many breakthrough infections are occurring in the vaccinated group? You look at that over the population.
But are we saying that? I think we need I think a better way to measure that. Well, let me ask you.
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. How do you measure it? You can't measure. Listen, if you got 10,000 breakthrough infections,
right,
then you got to see, okay, remember the efficacy for these vaccines was 94 and 95%. 94 and 95% infectious. So you're expecting 5% of the population to have a breakthrough infection, or 5% of the people, something happened in that group of people that's vaccinated. 5%. That means 9 million people, almost 10 million people, because it's 170. And we're talking about thousands of people. We're talking about 8,000 people. You see what I'm saying?
But okay, let's say that number got to, let's say the number got to double that. Let's say that number got to 10%. How does that prove that we need a booster? All that proves to me is that the effective rate of the vaccine was less. How does that prove that we need something to boot? How does that prove that we need a booster and not?
This goes back to what I said earlier. If the numbers was 40% or 50%, we need a booster, because the efficacy has been lowered to a real low amount. It's a numbers game. That means our chances went from it being 80 or 90%, let's just say 90%, less likely to have a severe response, right? Or to be hospitalized or death. It now has been reduced to a 50-50 chance. So it's a flip of a coin. But the booster would increase your likelihood of not being infected or spreading disease, hospitalization, and death. Then I'm rolling with the booster. But the data has to be there.
Right.
So that's how I'm looking at it. From me from a layman. I ain't trying to get technical and get caught up in all the other stuff. From a layman, just based on how I feel. So I'm feeling like if the numbers move to 30, 20, 30, you know what I'm saying? From this, if it goes from 1% to 30%, bro, in 30 days, then we know that we're not really being fully protected from hospitalization and death, because the numbers moved way too quick. So this variant is evading the immune system, and the vaccine is not stopping the spread of disease, and it's running up the hospitalization numbers and stuff. Because right now, everybody that's in a hospital right now, the majority of them people ain't never had no vaccine. So we make up the minority of the people. So I ain't tripping that. But who needs the vaccine is what's misunderstood. It is the immunocompromised people, the people who have problems, who have comorbidities. Those are the people who require a vaccine right now. That's why they in line to get it right now, because they have problems and they need them. We don't need them. I'm gonna stick to the science. If the science say I'm still in my 80s and 90s, I'm cool. I want those advantages. But if the science say it's a 60-40, nah, let me go get me one, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring my 60 on back up to 80, 90, where I was comfortable at. We just been spoiled, bro. Remember, the flu vaccine is 50%, around 50 or 60% efficacy. That's all that is. Other vaccines just needed to be above 50%. You see what I'm saying?
Wow, that's now that's powerful. See, okay, that's what I'm saying. I guess I was just trying to figure out. Okay, that would show, because the numbers go up. That would show that it's being less effective now. It's less effective. That's why we would need a booster if those numbers went up. Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Right. Because see, right now, but that's what I'm saying. But if the flu shot is only supposed to be between 50 and 60% infectious, when they administer it, you still have a 40% chance that you might get flu.
Right.
But we sitting over here with a vaccine that got us in the 90s.
Right.
And for us to hold and we spoil, bro. That goes back to the point that I was making, is that we got spoiled with these high efficacy numbers, and then as soon as something starts to warn, or the antibodies begin to warn off or die down, right? They're saying, well, we need a booster against Delta, because Delta reduces the efficacy rate in Moderna from 94 to 88. But Pfizer, it reduced it from 95 to 64. But now Pfizer is saying Pfizer was pushing the booster shot because it's trying to take that 64 back to 90. And Moderna, like, we're trying to take it from 88 back to 90-something%, and we want to make sure that we're protected against Delta. You see what I'm saying? All of this is driven by Delta and potentially Lambda. And then there's another variant that's unknown to us. If you missed the show earlier, it ain't been named yet. But that's where all this stuff come in, and then that's what we try to keep it layman. All right, bro, I'm used to vaccines being 60% infectious. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool at 60. I'm cool at 64. If I feel like, I need the booster, then I need to get one. But just to be real, let's do one more look. Let's go to COVID-19. Hold on. So let's go to COVID-19 hotspots. COVID-19 hotspots, right? So let's go to COVID-19 hotspots and let's look at a map. And this should be a part of your decision making, because I can't make a decision for everybody in the chat. I'm specifically speaking for myself and my family. Now, I could be speaking for you too, but I ain't trying to make the decision for everybody.
Look at that map.
You gotta slow down. Yeah, but this ain't a true look. This showing this. Average daily cases 3,600 per 100,000, 76. This is just doing this. This is saying that, right? So we expect that. But total cases for the United States, you see that too. But the true hot spots is in most of these southern states. I don't think this one actually give a good thing though. Everybody ain't red, bro. We all know this. Florida, if you in Florida, your ass need a booster. You in Alabama, you need a booster. These people have low vaccination rates. Not Florida, but well, yeah. Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama got horrible vaccination rates. Let's try to look that up.
Republican states.
Okay, hold on.
Tennessee
Now I'm
ain't too
alone.
far behind.
Now I'm alone. Okay. So Sean, you just said something. I live in Birmingham, right? So you just told me something. And Alabama, okay, we need boosters. So how do you go? How you get that booster? I need mine. I gotta get it.
You ain't even in line right now, bro. Immunocompromised in line right now, but by September, what did they say? By September, something like that, they gonna start having booster shots available for people.
Yeah, okay. Like that.
See, look at that. Look at the percentage in Alabama, bro. 86% of the people over the age of 65 getting vaccinated. 50% between 18 and 64. And below 18, not really anything. I put this out there before too.
Man, what kind of variance is that? 18 to 64. What? That's ridiculous.
Because when they did the trials in people between these mediums. Because it put more people in the ages of 18 to 64, and then 65 and above. So it gave it emphasis. Now,
I mean, that's ass.
Look, here it is right here. Percentage of state of population vaccination, fully vaccinated. You got this real light greenish color. So you got Idaho at 38%. I ain't going there. I ain't going to Wyoming. Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Alabama being the lowest. Yep, Alabama the lowest. So I ain't going to. I was in Huntsville. I was mad when I was in Huntsville because they was in there eating with nobody had no mask on. I got mad.
Wait a minute. You said they were eating with no mask on.
No. Let me finish. When we went to go eat, right? People in there that was eating but not eating, like done eating, they ain't had no mask on. Nobody had no. I was the only one in that motherfucker with a mask.
Oh, I thought you thought that. Like, what did you just say?
Nah, bro. You know me. I'ma eat and put my mask back on, cause I ain't drink nothing else. I ate what I ate real quick, and I put my mask back on. I was panicking.
There's a whole bunch of people in there.
That mother packed, bro.
Oh yeah. You doing right.
Exactly. I was trying to keep. Hey, listen. I was trying to keep that efficacy up.
Okay, that boy protecting that Moderna.
Protecting that Moderna.
At all costs.
Right. But see, it's these little lime yellowish colors. If you in those states, I would consider that. But if you in like places like California, New York, they have large portions of their people vaccinated. These northern states are more responsible people. That's why they act the way they do toward everybody else, especially in the lower states. But it's a gamble though. If you're immunocompromised, absolutely. You got some comorbidities, yeah, you want to stay on that. Me personally, he said I failed to turn Alabama into an unvaccinated state. Facts. But me personally, I'm all right right now. I don't see a need for it, and they're vaccinating more people. And watch the data when it changes. When you add one dose, You just got Alabama running around here with 1 dose, Wyoming and Idaho. But everybody else started to get a little darker in their green. And, you know, it's going from there. But we need those 1 dose people at 2 doses. So that's just how I'm looking at it, y'all. That's how I come to my conclusion based on the science for myself and listening to the experts. Yeah, I got the message, Cedric. Yeah, yep, absolutely. See, Cedric said, yeah, I seen this one too, Cedric. It says the effectiveness of Pfizer and BioNTech and Moderna in preventing SARS-CoV-2 infection. And you know, the study was done from March 1st to August 1st. That study was done in a nursing home, and it showed the mRNA vaccines to be 50%, 53% to 92% effective against SARS-CoV-2 infection, and 74% of effective against infections among nursing home residents. And then it declined significantly to 53%. So they're using that. That's the data that they're using, Cedric, to drive the booster shot. The president. That's why they're saying that, because they did that nursing home study, which is, for me, that ain't enough information for me. For me, I'm gonna stay right where I am. I'm looking at I'm looking at the overall data for the United States, and then I'm gonna compare our efficacy rates against, you know, everybody else's. I'm going death for death, and then I'm going hospital for hospital.
But what's the opportunity cost of getting it though? I don't understand why wouldn't I get, like why wouldn't you what's what you looking at as far as the downfall of the or the negatives of the
I ain't saying there's no downfall, but would you rather get a booster or somebody else get a vaccine that ain't got one?
Oh yeah, well yeah. Oh you saying it takes away from the total amount of the vaccines itself.
Boom. I'd rather have more vaccinated people. I'd rather have, and if you didn't pay attention to that, I think I did it yesterday, but we would rather have more people vaccinated than receiving booster shots. See, I put a post up on, I know you didn't get it, but I put a post up on Facebook where Vince says, you don't boost your way out of a problem, you just vaccinate.
Gotcha.
I might be messing the whole quote up.
I
But
get
when
the
you
gist though. I understand.
Yeah, so instead of us looking for a way to boost ourselves out of something, how about we just vaccinate more people? And then that right there solidifies everything else going on, because
hold on, because you messed that all up.
Yeah, you don't control infection by boosting, you control infection by vaccinating.
Yeah, there you go.
Now I was gonna get it right. So that's how
you control it with behavioral habits conducive of avoiding that shit. That's another thing. Like how you do a very, very good job. That's very, very important. It goes along with that.
The other quote was, you don't control infection by giving booster shots. You control infection by vaccinating people. So it's twofold. It's both ways. But anyway, man, that's why we do what we do. To be honest. Let me see what Dr. Monica. Okay. She just uploaded her video. Okay, so it wasn't necessarily, she premiered it. Okay. She premiered it. She didn't go live. All right, okay. We're still in the field. I see a bunch of people probably over there with Garfield though, talking about the speaker's corner. But yeah, man, so let's is the brother still here in the chat? because I don't want them to think we ignored them. I just went on a tangent. Javon, so Javon asked a couple questions. What's Sheffrin talking about? Sheffrin in the building. All right, I don't know if he's still in here, but let's go back. Quick question. We have been misled by the people who control information. It's kind of hard to listen and trust information on science. True.
How's the question?
Huh?
How is that a question?
It's a statement. But if you had to rephrase that, then you would say, why would we trust the people, or how would we trust the information on science? Well, okay, I'm gonna give it a stab. How do we hear this? Okay, so I'm gonna give it a stab. So it ain't a question, but science teaches you to remove the message from the messenger, right? And you go and you do your background check, or you go do your due diligence to research and to scrutinize the source. When you scrutinize the source, then you can come to an honest conclusion based on data, not emotions or not hearsay. So it gives us the ability to be able to take back control of the information, take back control of of all of that. So we don't listen to, this is what scientists tell you. Don't trust the scientists, trust the science. Now, as long as we know how to understand the science, then we're not going to rely on the scientists, because we can go behind them and fact check them. And then he said, the next thing he says, I'm in Honolulu working. That's from the mainland. All vaccinated. Okay, that's cool. Co-worker just caught COVID-19 out here. It just don't make sense. Well, what we just talked about should help that make sense. Breakthrough infections do occur. Vaccines aren't 100% effective. There's room for breakthrough. There's a 5%, 6% room in Moderna and Pfizer. And then there's a 16% room or something like that in Johnson & Johnson. So vaccine scientists, immunologists expect breakthrough infections. Period. Everybody do.
Yeah.
We're being fooled. Think differently. Go ahead real quick.
I'm just saying, like, this nigga made me forget. Damn, what I was gonna say. Shit. Go ahead, bro. I forgot.
Which I get quiet for, man. 4 of y'all, 3 of y'all.
I forgot what I was trying to say. I'm trying to. What was you just saying, bro? Let me help me.
We were talking about his question. It was just like breakthrough infections. He's like, it don't make sense. I was saying the vaccine 94, 95% effective.
Okay, now I remember. I was going to say that breakthrough infections don't equate to a death certificate or hospitalization. It's just if you test positive, yeah, you could, you know what I'm saying? You could carry it, but that don't necessarily mean it's gonna go through its full process. So it's really no big deal. That what they were saying. That's why they be tripping off us like steady testing and shit. For people that's vaccinated. They're like, yeah, you could probably carry the shit. That doesn't necessarily mean anything for everybody. Like for a person that's healthy or whatnot, you might be down, you might not. You might not even know.
My question is this: like when Sean, when you broke down that that the flu vaccine is only has only a 50%, 50-60% effective rate. That blew my mind. So I mean, we already doing this. So my point is, like when people say things like, "Oh, see, he caught it. He got vaccinated. He caught it." What are you saying right now? Like what are you saying? Are you saying that if anybody ever caught it, then you rather it's either 100% or zero for you? Like that's your point? Like it don't even make sense.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Let's try to pull it up.
It's like, man, no, man, I'm never gonna wear my seatbelt. I know somebody that wore a seatbelt and died one time in a car.
Facts. That's exactly what it's like. People don't understand that.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Why wouldn't you want to prevent something that you can avoid? That's like you got to be slow.
It's crazy. It's crazy, bro, because I feel like the opposite. If it's 1%, if the thing is 1% gonna help me protect me against the dang thing, I want that. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, give me. I don't care how much it is. If it's gonna give me any advantage, I want it.
You see this?
What's that?
Seasonal flu vaccine effectiveness. The years are at the bottom.
Yep.
2014, 2015 vaccine was trash, bro.
That's crazy.
This I don't know what they was doing.
This is nuts, bro. And you know it's crazy. I look, and I'm gonna get another one. I'm gonna get one next year when it comes up. Wow.
Yeah, I'm supposed to get mine too. I don't want to see that COVID. I don't want to see the flu. I don't want to see nothing. Nothing that I can avoid.
It's crazy because I used to be one of them niggas that was like, man, I don't care about no flu shot because I don't catch the flu. Then I had to teach myself, you know what I'm saying, how virology works and understand immunology and know what asymptomatic infections is.
Hey,
Once
we
you
don't
grasp
all been there.
you gotta put some effort into trying to understand. These niggas don't be trying to do that. They ain't trying to take their time, man.
I just wanted to put that out there for y'all because most people like what's actually going on. But the reason that you see, and let me go back now. Let me try to give some means to it. If this vaccine was probably more infectious, more effective in 2010 or 2011 because you probably had more people vaccinated against the flu.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? That's going to drive the effectiveness of a vaccine as well. And if you have more people vaccinated against something, then you're going to see that. Now, this number right here is different because you see, man, all right, so I've been fasting all day and had nothing to eat. I probably usually don't eat until tomorrow, but man, they just got the food here and I'm hungry. Nah, I'm gonna try to fight it. But now the effectiveness here is because you're in the middle of a pandemic toward the end of the year and it's really effective here. So you don't really, you can't really truly measure it. But it is what it is, man. Like people don't look at that stuff. People don't understand. They don't want to go in and look at that, like how well the flu vaccines work and deal with it. They work. Especially they work for the elderly. Shoot, they ain't trying to get the flu. The flu lead to pneumonia. Pneumonia take their ass out of here. It's a wrap. Not even the elderly. Shoot, and the young too. And the young, but you know they're looking for vaccines. When they test against the virus, they're looking for 50, 60%, and they did have some 40% effective vaccine. Look, vaccine effectiveness of 23%. Look at all that against the H3N2. You know, they got a new H5N1 or something like that running around here. So you got stuff going on like that. But man, look, we've been on this thing rocking out. I've been on this thing all day, man. Y'all, who coming with something? Yeah, 2014, 2015 did suck. Let me drop that in the chat. You have to add up like 6 to 7 years of flu deaths to get COVID deaths. Correct.
Oh, so Buddy was just lying. Or just didn't know. I ain't gonna say lying, just didn't know what he was talking about. Where would he even get those stats from?
He was lying. You talking the fact that you don't know and you talking about something, you lying, man. Cut it out. You making that shit up.
Yeah. But it go back to that video though. It go back to that video from earlier today, about that politician, religious dude or whatever. Because he basically was shunning, stuff. He was making those stuff on the go too. And he was using the dude that was doing some comparisons. I can't believe that he gave us Peter McCullough and then turn around and Vanderbilt. That's just horrible. Dr. Greet. He's the doomsday prophecy guy. Listen, he says he's an independent virologist, and a vaccine expert. That's a sign. Gert Vandenbosch, the dude who said the doomsday, said the vaccine quick.
Independent because don't nobody want to employ it. So
that's why he ain't with Bill and Melinda. Yeah, so he was fact checked up. I don't think anybody really gave him a lot of leeway. Snops even sniped him. So I'm gonna put him back on the screen just to have a little fun. Riverdale and scored another touchdown. Yeah, it's Friday Night Lights, you know what I'm saying? Football, bet high school football. I was gonna go to a football game too, but not with that Delta out there. They got people sitting side by side in Murfreesboro. I was trying to go to JP2, see my high school. But nope, ain't no social distancing. All right, so here you go right here. He put this letter up on Twitter. And remember earlier what I told y'all is that he posts information on Twitter and a Dark Horse website. Now, claims from the letter and subsequent interview by Vandenbosch have been shared thousands of times on Facebook, Instagram. All right. Russian state-controlled news organization RT also spread the claims. Vandenbosch, who was trained in veterinary medicine, claims that widespread and stringent infection prevention measures combined with mass vaccination campaigns using inadequate vaccines will undoubtedly lead to a situation where the pandemic is getting increasingly out of control in a process called viral immune escape. That's why I talked about viral immune escape. And now it doesn't make sense to y'all now when y'all watched the video earlier and you heard that guy, the Caribbean guy, talking about viral immune escape, and then he didn't tell you where it came from, and then it goes all the way back to Vandenbosch, and then you go and you look at his claims, and it deals with that. So he says that the infection preventing measures such as lockdowns have suppressed innate immunity. So now the lockdown shut down your innate immunity in young people. and that COVID antibodies, which can be generated naturally or by vaccines, are limited and short-lived. Mass vaccination during the pandemic, he says, will lead to monster variants. Some of his claims have also been spread by a prominent anti-vaxxer. Who? Dale Bigtree, Robert Kennedy, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Several COVID-19 vaccines are being administered or on trials around the world. Some 148 are going there. This dude is crazy. Oh, real quick, let me see if let me go back to Dr. Zar, because we dealt with some stuff. But I'm trying to see if he had this other video up. Yeah, we watched this earlier, but we didn't watch all of it. So I'm gonna play this for y'all right quick.
Are they true? The first claim is that the vaccines do not prevent or
The Washington football team is trash.
or reduce even, he's saying, asymptomatic transmission in people who are vaccinated or viral replication in people who are vaccinated. This is just wrong. So the data, and especially data out of Israel, et cetera, in real world applications show that asymptomatic transmission plummets. And of course, viral replication is going to drop in a properly vaccinated person because you're binding antibodies that you've made because you've got vaccinated to the spike protein with very high affinity, and you're preventing the virus from entering cells, and you're actually activating aspects of your immune system, which I'm going to talk about, that prevent the virus from replicating. So that premise that he's operating on, I mean, maybe it's true in animals because he is a veterinarian, right? But in humans, no. And this idea that the vaccine doesn't prevent replication is not correct. In which case, one of the fundamental pillars of what he's saying is, well, you're vaccinating people, you're preventing them from getting sick with this variant, but you're allowing it still to replicate and thereby escape the vaccine and generate new variants. That's just not true. Now, he's right in that if you partially vaccinate a population or partially vaccinate an individual, then you absolutely allow for partial viral replication in that person because they don't have full immunity, or in that population because there are a lot of people who aren't vaccinated. So what's going to happen? More viral replication, which means more chance for the emergence of variants. Note this, the variants that have emerged so far emerged in the absence of vaccine pressure. Without any vaccine pressure, those already emerged, more contagious variants. And the studies so far with the existing mRNA vaccines, for example, show that even though these vaccines bind with less affinity to the new variants, they still clinically work. They still actually prevent severe disease and hospitalization, which is what you care about. So this idea of rapid viral vaccine escape has not been shown so far. Now, could it happen? Absolutely. Does he have a point in that you want to reduce viral replication as much as possible to prevent vaccine escape? Yes. So how do you do that? Vaccinate as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, to lower the pool of circulating virus. Then when variants emerge, which eventually they will, because that's what RNA viruses do, they mutate, you can develop a booster vaccine in the next year or whatever and knock those out. And in the process, so there's several things here. He forgets that it's not just antibodies that these vaccines promote. He's a big fan of the innate immune system, this sort of adjunct part of the immune system, T cells, natural killer cells, interferon, things like that we've talked about on this show. These vaccines, these new vaccines, actually promote T helper cell responses that actually are much broader than just the antibodies. That's why they still work, even when the antibody affinity for new mutant variants is lessened. they still have this robust T cell response. Remember in the early pandemic, we were talking about why is it that some people don't seem to get that sick from coronavirus? And the thought was, well, because they have pre-existing T cell response from prior coronavirus exposures. Even though the antigens are different, the T cell memory is still there. That's why people in, say, the slums of Mumbai weren't dying of coronavirus at the rates that people in the West were. They're exposed to these things all the time. They have this T cell memory, this innate immunity, right? Well, it turns out the vaccines provide some of that as well. Yet another reason. I mean, why do you think you get these heavy duty fevers and muscle aches and those kind of things from the vaccine? It's all that innate immune system firing up. So the idea then that the vaccines are the wrong answer, and what he's advocating is stop it and let hundreds of thousands or millions of people die from a harmless virus because you might promote variants. Do you understand why this is insane now? It makes no sense. Now, you should listen to the guy because even, and this is the other thing, he keeps saying nobody's listening, nobody's talking about this, and if you watch his video where he got interviewed by another European dude, by the way, the accents are very compelling. You just go, oh, these guys must be smart, right? Because if a dumb American with like some hick accent went and said, well, now the thing about these variants is, people are going to be like, well, I don't believe him, because that's how people work. They work on appearances. But, you know, Goethe von den Busche says, listen, we are near catastrophe now. Everybody is going to die if we don't listen to me. It's madness. It's pure madness. I'm the only scientist out of billions. I'm the only vaccine scientist. Forget the other vaccine scientists, which are 99.9. 9 out of 10 dentists agree, but I'm the 10th dentist that says this toothpaste will give you plaque. Forget about removing plaque. It will give you plaque. And you kind of believe him, right? You see why and now people are scared to get vaccinated, right? This idea that the vaccine itself will actually jazz up your overall immune system and will, by its definition of reducing viral replication, reduce the chances of variants if we do it quickly. A recipe for generating exactly what von den Busche is saying is allow the virus to replicate naturally. And you'll get every variant in the world that can possibly emerge. Now, are we concerned about variants? Yes. Are we concerned about what von den Busche is saying about selecting for vaccine escape? Absolutely. He says no scientists are listening to him, except they are. We talk about it constantly. Every expert I've spoken to Paul Offit about this guy. Every expert we talk about, this is what they think about. This is on the radar. This is why they're saying get vaccinated now. They're also saying don't delay the second shot if you can avoid that, because then you have a hole in your potential immunity and more viral replication. This is why they're saying vaccinate as quickly and as many people as you can. And it doesn't even matter what vaccine you're using. And we need to reiterate that the current variants are clinically sensitive to these vaccines and that you don't get severe disease or death. And that's what you care about from this harmless virus. Now, why is this guy so compelling? Again, I've told you, he has a nice accent. He has some letters after his name that people can't interpret. He uses big scientific words. He does have some knowledge of vaccinology. You can argue and you should let him speak and you should debate him. Don't censor him. Don't cancel him. But take a look at the company he keeps, the Sherry 10 pennies, the Dell Big Trees, the Robert F. Kennedys, the big anti-vax, deluded cult members, basically, who will cherry pick any information. They'll hoist up a fake expert, which is this guy, who has the conspiracy thinking. Nobody's listening to my brilliant idea that will save the world. And he has a wonderful accent. Did I mention that? Get it now? Maybe, maybe not. Argue with me. Leave some comments. Tell me what you think. Share this video. Soon I'll have another vaccine expert on the show to talk about it in more detail.
So yeah, that's where we at with that. Now, Van den Bosch did show up on Dark Horse, which is some stuff Unc like to watch all the time that I can't bear to watch. But it is what it is. So I wanted to, now y'all seen the whole video and know more about it. But man, I've been rocking out a little bit too long today. I'll go ahead and wrap up, man. I know Dagger Squad live. I don't know if Pseudo Killers is live or whatever. But Y'all already know what I'm gonna do. All right, B-Lou, appreciate you tuning in, man. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.